Hi, I'm Angelique Letizia, a writer, director, and creator of the Call Cut Method. It's a tool to shift your frequency, rewrite your inner script, and realign you with the energy of your highest potential. This podcast is your behind the scenes pass to alchemizing that energy. So if you're ready to interrupt the script, reclaim your power, and write your story that you were actually born to live, you're in the right place. My guest today is Kevin Smith, founder and chief kindness chaser of Kindness Worldwide. A former Fortune 500 executive turned top wealth advisor, Kevin left it all behind in pursuit of a deeper purpose. That journey led to a single moment in 2023 when a stranger returned his lost wallet and sparked a global kindness movement. Now, Kevin is on a mission to make compassion the shared value that unites humanity. This is a story about alignment, purpose, and the extraordinary power of kindness. I am so happy to introduce my dear friend, Kevin Smith. Kevin, I am so happy to have you on Call Cut with Angelique, where we are talking about people who are transforming the world by calling cut on old narratives and uplifting us into our highest potential. So welcome to the show, my friend.
Well, thank you very much, my friend. It's great to be here.
So I would love to talk to you a little bit about your story and how you went from being a wealth manager, because not just a wealth manager, but one of the best in the world, to then having this happy accident happen in your life that brought you to this idea that you wanted to bring kindness to the world.
Wow. You're asking me to describe the indescribable, but I will do my best. Well, number one, I've always felt that the meaning of a life is to live it in a way to make a meaningful difference. And I've applied that value system throughout my life and career. I mean, by day, I'm a wealth advisor, as you mentioned, and it's very meaningful to me to help my clients translate their monetary resources into meaningful life experiences. But that took on a whole new meaning on Good Friday morning, 2023, simply through the intervention of fate and circumstances. A routine trip to the grocery store oddly evolved into an adventure of a lifetime. I got home on Good Friday morning, 9:55 a.m. I pull in my driveway, and I realized I left a very important item behind, and that was my wallet. And the moment I'm literally hitting the panic button, which is the ignition button of my car, a young woman magically appears, almost like an angel out of heaven, holding my wallet, asking if it was mine. And in my simple endeavor to identify who this young woman later was and thank her in a more meaningful way, it ultimately took on a life of its own and became so much more. It became about making a meaningful difference. A number of serendipitous moments, coincidences you wouldn't believe. I call them God winks, one after another. It just morphed into what ultimately became a community celebration of kindness, at which we publicly recognized this young woman, accidentally, organically created a framework for what is now known as Kindness Week Worldwide, which is the signature initiative of the nonprofit I ultimately was inspired to create, called Kindness Worldwide. Kindness Worldwide has a vision to create a culture of kindness in communities throughout the world. It was launched in November 2023, just 7 months after Good Friday morning when this act of kindness occurred. And to your point, it's really started a movement that's spreading to communities, throughout the world. And it's really impossible to describe just how meaningful this endeavor has been. It's bigger than me. I still have my day job, but every other waking minute of every hour, I'm literally focused on this meaningful mission of Kindness Worldwide. It's not my story; it's our story. I don't consider Kindness Worldwide my nonprofit. I consider it our nonprofit. It's an ecosystem model. But when you combine heart, passion, and purpose, I've experienced this firsthand. Nothing is impossible when you believe in the impossible. And when you surround yourself of like minded people, of which you are one, by the way, you are a Kindness Worldwide ambassador, a very early champion of this effort. But when you surround yourself of like minded people, magic happens, miracles manifest, and there's so much more good to come. So much good has already happened. Miracles have already happened, and there's so much more in our midst. So stay tuned.
Oh, I know. This is going to be such an exciting year. I feel like you are just blazing trails everywhere you're going. And let's be real, there's a dire need of kindness in the world right now. As a matter of fact, we've lost all sense of decorum in some ways, and social media has, brought with it the rise of keyboard warriors and those who seem to feel very comfortable being unkind and cruel to others in a very public way that I feel like it's elevated. And there's no time better than now, right? The divine doesn't do anything by accident than to bring this sort of initiative to the world and to bring it through somebody who really is super passionate about seeing it through. Talk about a little bit your journey here because it hasn't all been easy. And there's always come moments that maybe you've had to, call cut in your own fear and things that have gotten in your way and then, realigned yourself and been like, no, I know in my heart this is what I want to do.
Well, you touched on a lot of things, and you're right. I mean, this has been a journey in many respects, a personal journey. It's stretched me well beyond my comfort zone from very early on, and I don't know if I'll ever be comfortable with it all, but I'm getting comfortable becoming uncomfortable, so to speak. But the title of the documentary it's we're in the midst of making that we're going to enter in all the major film festivals. It's called For Such a Time as This. And there's a lot of meanings, for that title. I think it's the perfect title, but as you pointed out, there's so much in our world that divides today. There's so much division, tensions are high, and this really is the time for a kindness movement like this. There's so much focus on what divides us, and sometimes we overlook the one thing that unites us all, and that's kindness. And I think we just got to get back to the basics and focus on that as the foundation of everything in our discourse and how we treat each other, how we treat ourselves. But for me personally, this journey, for selfish reasons, I often wish I just would have said thank you to this young woman and left it alone. I think if I would have done that personally, my life would probably be a lot better than what it is. It's meaningful as this journey has been. I mean, there's been a lot of sacrifice. And I don't want to make it about me because it's never been about me. It's about us. It's a we endeavor, not a me endeavor. But I was very comfortable before this journey began. In my pre Good Friday morning world, I had the rest of my life seemingly figured out. I have a great career by day. I've got, I had my future all envisioned and what it was going to be like. I was comfortable. I would have plenty of time to have life work balance. And that's been flipped upside down. My time is very limited. How I allocate my time is very different. But I've just had to figure it out because I realized as this journey evolved and this framework for bringing people and communities together evolved organically. It was pointed out to me by my brother-in-law, who's actually my chief strategy officer, that it was a defining moment in this journey where I had a document that had outlined my objectives, this framework for Kindness Week at the time, and a timeline and journal of all the meetings I was having. And he happened to be coincidentally reading it one afternoon. And he does by day, he does entrepreneurship. He advises startup companies. He studies entrepreneurs, and it's what he does for a living. He's done this throughout his whole career. He knew what I was doing, but didn't know all the details. And he happened to be visiting one weekend, happened to see this document coincidentally laying on my family room table, and he's reading it. So I'm in my corner chair. I'm in my happy place. I got my dog in my lap. I got a coffee in my lap, and I'm just trying to decompress. I wanted this event to be over. I wanted this young woman to be recognized, this community celebration to be over with, because I wanted my life back. And he starts reading this document and this framework that I created, and he looked up at me after reading it, and he said, "Kevin," he says, "do you realize you have created in 5 months a sustainable, replicable model that has a higher probability of success than the most promising startup companies he's ever worked with takes 5 years or more to create?" And I looked at him like, "What model are you talking about?" I mean, in my mind, I'm just planning this event. I mean, by then I had Proclamation of Kindness Week by York City and Governor Shapiro, but I just thought I was creating a special event for my community and in my state. And he says, "Kevin," he said, "this framework for Kindness Week," he said, "our world needs this right now." He said, "This model that you've developed locally, you can bring this to communities anywhere and everywhere." He said, "You can't stop with York. You've got to start a nonprofit, and you've got to bring kindness to communities everywhere." And when he said that to me, honestly, Angelique, I get emotional every time I think about it because it was in that moment my head went down and my shoulders sank, and I knew then my life would never be the same because I saw it and I knew he was right. And I knew if I didn't pursue it for selfish reasons, because I wanted my life back, then I'm part of the problem, not part of the solution. And so there was no choice at that point. And again, with my value system, the meaning of life, to live it in a way to make a meaningful difference, I saw a path to make a meaningful difference, not just locally, but broadly. And I had to pursue it. And yes, it's come at a personal cost. I'm starting to figure out what this new balance is anymore. I've had to do things well beyond my comfort zone, even being on podcasts.
Yeah.
Look, I'm never comfortable being in front of the camera. I like to be behind the scenes. But I've had to put myself out there. I had to be vulnerable. I've had to do everything that's previously made me uncomfortable because this movement matters. It's so important. It's bigger than me, and I've just had to figure it out as I go. I don't know if I'll ever figure it out, but I'm just hanging on for dear life on this ride of a lifetime, knowing where it's going to go. And there's so much good in the works yet. Thankfully, I've got wonderful people like yourself and so many others, ambassadors, volunteers, that are really on this journey with me. And that gives me tremendous comfort because I know I'm not in this alone. We're all in the arena together and we're all going to do wonderful things to make our world a better place.
I think what you've touched upon is super important because one of the things that a lot of people think is that whatever the dream is should be easy. Oftentimes it's not, because often the most wonderful things are the things that are the most rewarding are not the easiest. And we do have to have a little bit of a death and rebirth, not just of the physical, but of the mental space, of the heart space. And I love how you were saying, there was a part of you that wanted your old life back, right? Because there was a comfort with your old life. There was a security there. And even though this is got the potential to be something unbelievable, it's not quite manifested yet. And so you're in the in between. And so what I find a lot of people do is they give up in the in between. They give up because things start to get super hard or things start to go backwards. And it's funny because no matter how many times you explain to people wave theory, right? That everything in life moves in waves, heart waves, brain waves, actual waves. And if a wave is coming into shore, it actually pulls back before it comes into shore. So, what is it in your experience, and what do you do personally to help yourself? And obviously, for me, it would be a call cut moment, right? To call cut on that negative thought or that proverbial devil on the shoulder. So, what do you do to stop yourself from giving up right before the great things start to manifest?
Well, throughout my life and my history, I'm stubborn to a fault. And I'm an overachiever. I've always been a go big or go home kind of guy, almost to a fault. There are many times, Angelique, I just wish that I didn't have that mindset because sometimes I set the bar so high, the expectations are so escalated that there's nowhere to go but to underperform. And I've never been one to underachieve. In fact, no matter how high that bar is, I always hit it and exceed it. And but sometimes we can become a victim of our own expectations. I think the self-talk, the self-doubt. I mean, so many people in this journey. I mean, for many, many months, I call it the loneliest journey because no one saw it, no one believed it was possible. The only one who did was me. And I wish through the ability of osmosis, and even now, to a large extent, it's still a lonely journey because there's so many ideas in my head, and there's so many possibilities I know are going to manifest. And I see a world that's very different than the world that is. And I just wish I could translate that to osmosis to everyone else, that they can see it too. But for many, many months, I just kept passioning forward and persevering. It didn't matter what anyone else thought. All the criticism, all the naysayers. It was what I knew. And I knew the heart, soul, and character of my home community of York. I knew they would respond if merely given the opportunity, and they did. Did they ever during the first kindness week and how they embraced it? I also know the heart, soul, and character of my country, and really, global citizens at large. And all they need is something to inspire them, a spark to empower them, and someone to believe in them. In the midst of so much negativity and so many doubters, and people are saying how bad we are, but no, yes, bad things happen, but as a society and as a community and as a country, we're really good people. And so all these folks that say, how bad things are, well, you know what? How do we compete against that narrative? We show them how good we are, because it's not about narrative; it's about truth. And so when someone says I can't, that's like the adding fuel to the fire, because my fire has like eternal flame. Like what? When you say I can't, well, guess what? I'm going to show you
Right.
I can, but not just I can, that we can. And I knew that those people are out there just like me that have passion and purpose, and I just had to find them. And I went on LinkedIn and just I knew there was a community out there of like-minded people, and I could connect with people very easily. I can see their heart space very quickly, through their words. If it's almost like a charism, like your words, honestly, you're the most gifted writer I've ever met. You really truly are. And so instantly, you connect with people. And I'm like, if there are many people out there that have to see the potential other than me of this movement in this world. And once you surround yourself with them, that gives you energy. What you give to the world, you get back. And when you surround yourself with many people with positive energy, positive attitude, positive mindset, passion, purpose, and heart, literally there's no star beyond reach, and the impossible becomes I'm possible and actually manifests.
You have mastered this in a way, which is so interesting because people oversimplify a lot of difficult, complex thoughts and ideas, especially with how do you bring something into the world and you don't initially see it. How do you stay with it? And the point that you have made, and very eloquently so, is that you stay the course no matter what gets thrown at you. And you mentioned, of course there's going to be naysayers, of course there's going to be setbacks, of course there's going to be moments where you feel like it's not happening, but how do we transcend those things in order to stay the course on the belief and not to allow that belief to get diluted by the illusion? Because let's be real, this is all an illusion, the illusion that you can't do it. Of course you can do it, and you are doing it. And you're doing it to this elevated level where it's always so interesting to talk to you because there's people who are super positive. There's manufactured positivity, and then there are people who are heart-led positivity. And I feel that you are heart-led positivity, that you really do, and anyone who gets to know you, you really do get behind things all the way. You are a champion of people. You've been one of my greatest champions. I say this all the time. I would not have thought to write a certain book if it hadn't been for you. A person who's got a mission in this world, but that mission is not just an ego-led mission. It's a heart-led mission. And that's what I think sets you apart from a lot of these other things out there that, while certainly good in their own right, are not on that same vibrational level. So I want to talk a little bit about this movie that you're putting together and how that's going and what does that look like?
Wow. Well, again, it's very difficult to put into words this journey. And Elgin Cahill, the director of the film, is somehow going to find a way to put it in 90 magical minutes. I could go on for hours and hours about this story, and there are stories within the story that would just blow everyone away. And I have even a hard time believing it myself. But there's a lot more to this story. I mean, many people think, and many people know about this act of kindness. I lost my wallet, was returned by a good Samaritan woman, and kind of what it evolved to. But there's a story after the story. There's things that have happened that have not yet been revealed. There's new information that's been uncovered as we've conducted interviews in this documentary. And there are many powerful stories of the transformative power of kindness that are going to blow people away. I think this film is going to open eyes. It's going to shape hearts. It's going to mold mindsets. And it's going to change and transform lives. And I would dare say, even save lives. It's going to be that powerful. And I'm not one that exaggerates. It's a magical story. It's going to inspire people, but I think it's going to empower people into action. And that's the key. Inspiration is temporary. Inspiration is like a sugar high. The key is we've got to translate inspiration into empowerment, because when you empower people, they act upon that. And that's how we create meaningful change. And that's what we're trying to do. But I think this film has the potential to cause people to see people in a different way, to truly see people for who they are, to look to their hearts, not through characteristics we typically evaluate or see other people. I think it's going to change paradigms. It's my hope that this film, when it's all said and done, is just going to be one vessel among many that's going to be part of this cultural change that we're trying to make. Because what the goal here is, and I'm a go big or go home kind of guy, is we're literally trying to create a tectonic change in culture. because I think what we're seeing in our culture in recent decades is what I refer to as empathy erosion. Dr. Jen Fraser is a friend of mine. She understands the brain science. She's also a Kindness Worldwide ambassador. And it explains a lot of society in recent years is that we're more connected in terms of technology, social media, et cetera, but we're losing connection. And that's causing an erosion of empathy. And that has consequences. I mean, things that are happening today in this world never happened when I grew up. I mean, school shootings seem to be happening all the time, almost like we're getting desensitized to them, like that's normal. It is not normal. It can never be accepted as normal. And I think that's one of many adverse consequences of empathy erosion, but it can be restored. And as Jen Fraser is very quick to point out, is how we can restore empathy is through kindness and mindful kindness and conscious behaviors. And that's what we're trying to do when this movement hits a tipping point. We want everyone to be talking about kindness all the time. Like, what's up with kindness? I mean, it all started with one act of kindness. We all have the power within us to be kind to others and be the ripple to start a wave, so to speak. But as we all start talking about kindness, then we can internalize it and we can be mindful of it and we can make it a habit. And as we do that locally, globally, as a society, now we can reverse this trend of empathy erosion and restore it through kindness, get to restore, get back to the light, so to speak. So I think this film is going to be very powerful in its message and its meaning. It's going to be inspirational for sure. But there's more to this story, more to come that I think really is going to have that type of an impact. And I'm looking forward to it. But it's just one of many vessels, of this movement. We want to elevate kindness to the global shared value that represents all of humanity. We want every governor, every state, every country in the world to celebrate humanity's greatest asset, which I believe is kindness, just like we celebrate a lot of things. I mean, we have weeks, months for many things, and that's all fine. But in my view, we don't do enough as a society to celebrate the very one thing that everyone recognizes we need more of, and that is kindness. Kindness is a universal language everyone understands. We all recognize we need more kindness in the world today. Well, how do you get more of something we all agree we need more of? You encourage it, you recognize it, you reward it, and you celebrate it. And that is what our signature initiative, Kindness Week Worldwide, is all about. If we can concentrate energies into 8 days every year in that meaningful week in November, hopefully that develops habits and behaviors that extends all throughout the year. And that's how we create a tectonic change in our culture. And we start to change the course for the better.
It's so appropriate right now because, my God, when you look around the world and you look at the people and you look at the decivilization of societies and humanity, and this is really needed. And kindness isn't just something you preach about, it's a way of life. It's super important to make sure that we do have kindness initiatives, especially where children are involved, where we can really teach people, because, and I hate to say this, but it is true, we've been taught to hate, and this is adults that have been perpetuating violence, fear of the unknown, fear of anyone who doesn't think like you, look like you, act like you, talk like you. And we know that humans are distrustful of anyone that has a different consciousness, but we need to elevate that consciousness. And I really do feel that the work that you're doing is going to do that on a global scale. And I don't think that the divine picked the wrong person for it. I think the messenger is the right person for it. And anyone who's really ever gotten the pleasure to know you, whether they're on social media or they've met you in person, and I've had the pleasure of all of that, really sees that your heart is in the right place. The call to action, right? If we think about life as being the hero's journey, and you accepted the call and you're taking it all the way. And I think that that is super admirable. And I do think that what you're doing will have a ripple effect in the way that you're hoping.
Well, thank you so much. I mean, that means the world to me. I mean, you're right. This is a calling. If I share with you all the reasons why I know there's a power much higher than me behind all this, it would give you chills. This happened on Good Friday morning of all days, not a coincidence. That's just one of many coincidences I call God winks. But look, I was a good person before Good Friday morning, 2023. I'm a much better person today because of this one act of kindness. And it just was an epiphany in many, many ways. But I realized that There's a power that we each possess that I would argue is the world's greatest superpower that's unharnessed. And all we have to do is choose to exercise it to change the world around us and to change the world at large. And that is the power of kindness. It is a superpower. It is a strength. Those who call it a weakness, it is a weakness to be unkind. It is a strength to resist those natural temptations to be unkind and to take a pause and just treat each other with dignity and respect and civility. We each have that power. It's easy to just look at the world and say, that's just the way the world is. There's nothing that I or any of us can do to change it, and accept it. I refuse to accept that premise because I had an epiphany because of this one act of kindness. I would point the finger at others, and there's a lot of finger pointing that can go around. That solves nothing. I can't control the actions of other people. I can't control my own actions and behaviors. So I had an epiphany, and that epiphany was when I looked in the mirror and I pointed the finger at me, and I had the realization that it is me that needs to change. It is me that needs to be better, and me that needs to lead by my example, hoping it'll inspire others to follow it. I can control that. We each can control our own actions, behaviors. And if we simply choose to exercise the power within each of us, the power of kindness, it will not only change the world of others, it'll change our own world as well, and the greater world at large. I've seen that, the ripple effects, this one act of kindness. Look, there's one person that I know of, and I know there's others. There's one person alive today that was ready to take their life because they were in a dark place. And they happened to go on the Kindness Worldwide website, and they watched a video of the story, and it inspired them. It brought them out of a dark place, and it reminded them that they do have a reason to live. They do have meaning and purpose. If that's all that ever happened, Angelique, because of this one act of kindness, that is more than enough. But so much more has happened and is happening because of one act of kindness. And any one of us has that power within. The beauty of this story of Kindness Worldwide, again, it's our story. It's not my story. We're all writing the future chapters of the story together. But the beauty is we can trace origin. We can trace this one act of kindness and all of the ripple effects that are now being felt all throughout the world. We can trace that original act of kindness. But I would argue that similar acts of kindness happen each and every day that have just the profound and impactful ripple effects, but we may often and generally never know what those ripple effects are. But they're no less important, they're no less meaningful, and they're no less impactful. And we each have that power within us to be that ripple to start a wave. Look, I'm just an ordinary guy. I come from very humble origins. I had a wonderful mother who instilled tremendous values in me, always been very principle centered. But I'm just an ordinary guy. And this young woman, this one act of kindness that she did, she's just an ordinary woman, but ordinary people can do extraordinary things and do extraordinary things each and every day. And this young woman did an extraordinary thing. She was kind. And we each have the ability to be extraordinary just by being kind, and the ripple effects of that literally can be profoundly life-changing. So my hope is, again, I can't control others. I can only control my own actions, but I do hope by leading by my own example to inspire others to follow it, and we all can be the change that we wish for.
Well, gosh, you said so many things that I love. I'm trying to hone in on all of them, but the first thing you said was that kindness is not weakness, it's a strength. And my God, is that true? Because man, does it take more to just hold on to your own heart and stay grounded in that I am not going to stoop to this level. I am not going to go ballistic. I mean, we all have it. I've evolved into my persona, right? But I am a quadruple Leo with a Sagittarian moon, and those who follow astrology know, right? So it's like, wow, wrangling the beast. And it took me a long time to realize that I needed to call cut on having to react to everything. And sometimes the answer is to be kind. If we approach communication with love, respect, kindness, and compassion, it does change the way the world is. We've talked about this before because I like to do the random acts of kindness to people on the street, which can be borderline terrifying for some people when some rando comes up to them and is like, oh my God, I love your shoes. Oh my God, your hair, right? But the thing I've noticed is the entire energy changes. The interaction between you and that person completely changes. Now, they then take that uplifted feeling and energy and they go on to their next, encounter. And that is infectious. Just same way that hate, fear, violence, and anger is infectious, so is kindness. And I think that's the kind of pandemic we need to have, which is a kindness pandemic. Just infiltrates people wherever they are. And instead of people wanting to hurt, to harm, to compete, to be jealous, to really just come from a different perspective.
Absolutely.
And I am with you. Yeah, I think that ripple effect will be felt because we know it works on both sides of the spectrum, the polarity spectrum, and the negative works and the positive works. And I do think we are way too tipped to the negative, and we need to come back to balance. And kindness is how you come back to balance. It's not easy for everybody. And I feel like you guys are opening that, or we're all opening that for people to really see it a different way.
Well, we're certainly trying, and we're trying to create a kindemic. We've certainly been through a pandemic,
Yeah.
but a kindemic is something we all want to catch. And
Yeah.
look, there's a lot of negativity out there. There's a lot of negative energy, right? And sometimes we are, the recipient of negative energy from others. But it's a choice as to how we respond to that. I think math is wrong. If you think about math, a negative times a negative is a positive. Well, if you apply that to actions and behaviors, if there's an act of unkindness towards us, if we respond with unkindness, nothing good comes out of that. When we respond with kindness, which could just be patience, taking a pause and recognizing if we respond with unkindness, that's our inherent weakness. It takes strength to resist that because we're trying to stand our ground. We're trying to be strong and firm. The perception that society has is you're strong and you're firm when you fight back. No, you're strong and you're firm when you say, you know what? I'm not going to let that negative energy affect me. I am bigger than that. I'm above that. And when you respond with unkindness, with at minimum a pause, but with kindness, it disarms them. And so a negative followed by a positive in math is a negative. But in the real world, with actions, behaviors, when someone comes at you with a negative behavior and you respond with a positive, only good things happen from that. And so I think if we look at it that way, it is a choice. Look, adversity happens. We all face adversity at various times in our lives. But as the adage goes, it's not what happens to you that matters, it's how you choose to respond. And it's always a choice. And if we simply choose to be the reason someone believes in the goodness of people, we can choose that. If everyone made that simple choice to be the reason someone believes in the goodness of people in every moment of every interaction of every day, our world would instantly change. And we have that power within us, the power of kindness, power unlike any other. I would argue it represents the world's greatest source of untapped positive energy reserves on the planet. It is completely free and well within our control. And it's just amazing when you think about energy in the world and positive energy and negative energy. Look, we can all respond and be that light to someone, be the positive energy that someone needs, be empathetic. You never know where someone else is. Everyone has a story. There's always something behind the scenes, so to speak, that we don't know of. And it's easy to judge, it's easy to assume, but it's very hard to take a pause and just try to be where they're at and assume the best in someone instead of assuming the worst.
I think part of the issue that we come up against is we do have a predominantly negative consciousness, and it's fueled by fear of the unknown, etc. And I do feel like it's time. I feel like people are ready. They're ready to start to elevate, to transform, to move out of that old paradigm and get into something new, and to really just say, you know what, I'm going to call cut on this bullshit, and I'm going to move myself into a place where I can elevate, and I'm not going to engage. I'm not going to get angry. I'm not going to lower my vibration. We need our emotions. We need sadness and we need anger. We need them. They're absolutely important and they regulate us, right? And they are ways that we heal our body, and they're cathartic as well. But they're disproportionate if you don't know how to control them, and then you don't know what the remedy is when they're out of control, how to bring them back to this neutral place. And I do think that is what kindness does. I am so excited for you, Kevin, and I can't wait to see this film. I can't wait to see what else you're up to and where you show up. Like, where in the world is Waldo? It's going to be where in the world is Kevin? The little pins following you around, and all the good that you're doing. You always say, see the good, be the good. And that is super important, because we do need to take accountability for what we put into the world. I mean that by consciousness, by our actions, by our thoughts, and by our emotions. And you're leading the charge and really showing people how to do that.
Thank you so much. Well, again, it's our story. It's not mine. And we're all in this together. We're all going to write the future chapters of the story together, which I'm convinced will be the most beautiful chapters yet. And this story that continues to emerge, but it is proof beyond any shadow of doubt that no act of kindness is too small to make a difference and change a life, and that anyone can make a lasting impact, and I would argue even change the world through kind actions. Why not us? And why not now? This is the time, for such a time as this. This is our moment in time. This is our movement. Kindness Worldwide is our story, and we're all going to be writing the future chapters of the story together. And so I'm excited for what's ahead. I'm excited for everyone who's part of this magical journey, as are you and so many others. And we literally are going to change the world. And again, I'm a go big or go home kind of guy. And that's exactly what we're going to do.
Yes. And on that note, my friend, I am so incredibly happy to have had you. This is a great conversation. And I feel like we're going to be doing this again, especially after the film comes out. To my friends who are watching, follow Kevin on LinkedIn. He's also on Instagram. Kindness Worldwide is on LinkedIn. Follow him and to get involved if you are so inclined to be kind. We will keep you updated on his film and everything else that's coming down the pike. Kevin, my dear, dear friend, thank you so much for this conversation and for everything you're doing to elevate humanity and the world and the consciousness. You are a blessing to all of us, and this is a fabulous story that we are all co-creating, and I can't wait to see it manifest to its full capacity.
Thank you so much, my friend, and thank you for all that you do, all the positivity in all your posts every day. You're literally changing the world with every post you write, and just thank you for being the wonderful person and friend that you are.
Thank you for joining me on Call Cut with Angelique. New episodes drop every Friday, so please come back and join us. We have some incredible guests. We're going to talk about some incredible topics, and we would love to have you here. If this content resonates with you, like, subscribe, and share to anyone that you think would enjoy it. Remember, life is a story, and it plays out as a movie. You are the director. You are the writer. Make it a good one. Always keep shining.